So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on Helix GPT capabilities in service management. I have the pleasure of being joined by two of our product managers today, both Kapil and Harshad, who will do their formal introductions shortly. Just a couple of reminders as well, because this is roadmap, we will be recording and sharing out some of the slides, but there will be things that we won't be able to send out to you today. I'm going to just do our introduction slide. So if you can move to the next slide, Harshad. So we're also joined by Des Sanders. Des is one of our principal solution engineers. Des works with me on this webinar monthly series. And then today we've got Harshad and Kapil, who will do their introductions when we get started. So before we go into the slides, if we can just go through to the legal notice. Everything we're going to be sharing today, there will be some forward-thinking product slides. We can't share everything out with you today, so we just remind you that although we'd like to get everything in the product today, some of these roadmap slides we can't guarantee. So if you can just take a minute or so to read this. While you're doing that, just a reminder for those that are new to Zoom, there is a Q&A section of Zoom at the bottom. If you have any questions during the session, please put them into the Q&A. We're joined by our panelists who will be able to answer those questions. And then we will have roughly around 10 minutes at the end where we'll be able to take the questions to the live Q&A. So until that time, you will be left unmuted, but please do use that Q&A section. So I'm now going to hand over to our first presenter, Des, who's going to set the scene around GPT. Over to you, Des.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon. Hey, so the simple fact is most of our jobs will and have been already transformed by AI. If you look at how the generative AI has changed the automation that has occurred in our jobs in the past year, you'll start to see that the things that we're doing are going to become more and more automated and less mundane, right? And one of the major changes for us is how do we change our jobs? How do we change what we do to incorporate the AI? Because if we don't, it's going to start taking over what we do completely. Next slide, Harshad. So for BMC, there is no difference, right? We've been ingrained in this change the entire time, and in fact, we've been part of this. This is the start of from the start, right? And what we're able to do here, we're able to use the power of our platform to pull data in from our AIOps toolsets, from our service management toolsets, from the DevOps toolsets, including data from your knowledge management, your business workflows, and your ITSM toolsets, and use the power of the models themselves to provide capabilities for our customers. Now, what we're able to do is say to the models, well, within the model, you're pre-trained to use different languages. You're pre-trained to ask questions in different ways. You've got a certain amount of information on those models. But on the models, they don't have anything that's related to your corporate data. They don't have anything that's related to specific instances, specific knowledge within your business itself, right? And you can train these models on that information. However, that is expensive. It is time consuming, and you don't need to do that. What we do is we take the data that sits within the BMC platform and we overlay it with that model itself. That model is running GPT-4 Turbo, GPT-4o, and such like on the Azure OpenAI platforms. And we're able to say to it, well, if there's any information coming in, any questions, any specific information around processes that I need to achieve, I'm able to then rationalize it, use it, put some guardrails up, and then provide you with these specific outcomes that are required. So what you saw there at the start was the first, I would say, iteration of generative AI, right? And how it can quickly bring you some results in your organization. However, As AI is changing, and it is ever changing, in the past year, it's changed a hell of a lot. We need to start thinking about how we can use the AI to perform specific tasks, right? Because unlike the large organizations such as Microsoft and Google and AWS, we're not going to be able to plug into data in all these different platforms, because that creates costly integrations for you, for us, and it makes a huge maintenance overhead. What we tend to do is we're saying, well, within the BMC sort of ecosystem, we're really good at the service and ops messaging, right? For your core business apps, for business workflows, for ITSM and AI ops. Microsoft's really great at using Office 365. Google's really great at its tool sets, right? What if we were able to use the interface from Teams and Copilot, or Google Chat and Gemini, where I was able to ask a question about my ticket data, and Copilot would come to HelixGPT and say, hey, HelixGPT, Desmond's looking for X amount of tickets. He wants to know about what's happening with those tickets. Please go and give me the information and put it back in Teams, right? Suddenly we start talking about the bot-to-bot, or the integration layer on a bot level, on an AI level, rather than on an application layer. This helps you to ensure that you've got security across the platform. It helps to ensure that you've got only a few integrations, and it also allows us to scale out, right? So suddenly I can start talking to other architecture, other tool sets, which I normally wouldn't have access to. Like I said, in the tool set, the way it works today is it plugs into the likes of OpenAI. In the near term, we're looking at Google Vertex and as well as OpenAI themselves, the big players in the market. All right, so what does this toolset provide you? There's 6 key areas where the toolset will work, right? And this is not only providing one source of AI, right? Because one source of AI is great, but the power of the platform allows us to bring all of these toolsets together, or all of these AIs together. So if we start, we can aggregate data and scale, right? And these are some of the capabilities that are within the platform, especially in the ITSM Insights perspective, right? So looking at data, real time, telling you where you may have an incident occurring, finding patterns on the incident data, and helping you to look into why a problem is occurring. You can also look at the data in retrospect and say, well, looking at all the hundreds of thousands of tickets that I've got in my estate, what are my common problems, and how are those common problems solved, and what was the natural language used there, right? So I can start enhancing my problem management process through the aggregation of data. Summarization is a core use case of generative AI, and that is simply being able to make a complex reading simple, right? So tell me what's happened in this entire case. Or when a user is speaking to a live agent and they've had a long conversation with a virtual agent, suddenly the live agent knows what they're talking about because it's summarized in a short text. Or being able to simply ask, tell me about this ticket. Tell me what's happening within this case. So I don't have to go and read through all the data. So really great at doing that. Not only is that important, but also from the AI ops perspective, right? When I'm looking at complex situations which entail huge amounts of events from different platforms, from different different users, and I'm able to summarize it into plain natural language. We can then surface the data in the right place, and this is very, very key for every single one of us. We all create reports, we all create dashboards. Because we need them at a certain point in time, but more often than not, those are forgotten. They're removed. They're not removed. They just sort of sit in the platform and never used again. Being able to surface the data in the right place, not only from a dashboard perspective, but from a user perspective. And one of the great areas where I see this is the ITSM Insights, or the business workflow insights, where I'm in the ticket and I go ask HelixGPT, and it tells me some information about what I need to do for that specific ticket when I need it. So that can help me to get to the point of, okay, I can bring down the time to resolve, or I can bring down the time that the ticket is open, so I can make the user experience better for my customers. A recommendation of the actions is a great capability. So looking at all the ticket data that's come in, looking at the current situations, the past situations, the incidents, as well as everything within the organization, we can then start thinking about how we can recommend what the best action to take is to solve a problem. So this goes hand in hand with the surfacing of insights, but also it start to give the users actions. Where I look at what are the 5 steps to bring my service back up? What are the 3 things a user needs to do to get their VPN to run, right? And so on. And not only are we just recommending the actions, but we also potentially are recommending the automation, the actual generation of the script, potentially even creation of an article for the future. Conversation is for me, it's one of the core factors of generative AI, right? The fact that I can have a natural language conversation with the platform 24/7, 365. And that's important because if, as an end user, I want to have access to my ticket data, I want to have access to knowledge, I want to have access to requesting something that I need, or as an agent, I want to know how to solve a problem quickly, or as a business owner, I can ask questions around the service management that I'm delivering. That is one of the key areas where we're spending our time. And then last but not least, creation of content. The fact that we are able to look at huge amounts of data, analyze the data, aggregate it, build out patterns, we can then start to think about what we can create to solve the problem. So we can remove away the need for having all these tickets coming in, right? We can create documentation, we can create reporting, we can create even new knowledge articles, or even in the future, code to solve the problem. Next slide, Harsha. So with that, I think I'll hand over to Harshad to take over the next few slides.
Hey, thank you, Des. So I am Harshad Borgaonkar, and I am the product manager for ITSM, and I'm also responsible for infusing AI and HelixGPT into ITSM. So today we are happy to announce the launch of HelixGPT powered Agent Assist, and this is for faster resolution of tickets. And I'll start with the why of this. Why the need for this feature. So we are constantly talking to our customers, getting into discussions, getting into workshops with them. And the one challenge that they are facing today in IT is around around increasing number of applications and increasing application complexity. Along with the risk of not knowing how to resolve issues or incidents that are associated with super niche or new applications or within specific areas of those applications. I know what you've been thinking. You've been thinking about traditional search, but traditional search has not been able to respond to these challenges. And so here is where the agent assistance feature in HelixGPT comes to the rescue. So our goal with this feature really is to provide the agent's search interface, and I'll show that later in the demo, right? And with this search interface, our goal is to provide a summarized response to the reported incident. And the summarization could be from knowledge of one or more articles. And then, what more is that it helps in responding to the user queries, or prompts as well, right? And we'll see that in the demo, it returns answers in the specific context of the user's inquiry. The goal of this feature is to really reduce time spent searching through multiple search results, which we know are cumbersome, are time consuming, provide faster, provide more accurate answers that are fully referenced to the original source documents. And again, this is possible when you have a knowledge article that are properly curated, right? So this really allows agents with more time on their hand, right? So this is the end goal of this feature. I'll do a small demo of this feature. So I'll stop sharing this slide and I'll just quickly transition to demo mode. I hope you're able to see my screen.
I think it's just loading up now, Harshad. I think there's a bit of a delay on the latency this morning. Can anybody else see it? Does it come up okay?
No, it's not come up on my side.
Yeah, it's just still loading, Harshad.
Okay. Yeah, I think what we can do is we can get to this maybe at some point later
Okay.
during the discussion. Let
Yeah.
me continue with the talk
Okay.
track on the feature, right? So this is the feature that quickly talk about this one slide before transitioning it over to Kapil. And this is these are questions that we often get about Gen AI risks. And again, the way that we have mitigated some of the risks is by not relying on internet knowledge, but then fine-tuning and context grounding our responses on your enterprise knowledge, right? So you set the context, and the context is within your enterprise knowledge. And then again, of course, we have safety layers. We also allow you to bring your own models, which you can then integrate with HelixGPT. Um, so, so this is a very important thing on how we are working to resolve some of the commonly occurring Gen AI risks. And with that, I would like to transition it to Kapil for this session on HelixGPT in business workflows.
Hey, thanks, Arshad. I'll share my screen. Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm going to cover the Helix GPT use cases from business workflows perspective. I hope everyone can see the screen. I've switched my slide in case people.
Yep, it's all good.
So the first use case I want to talk about is from an end user persona. So I'm going to talk about business workflows, Helix GPT use cases from a persona. The first one is how is it going to benefit the end user persona? So the use case is more about end users trying to create cases via email, and then how you can deflect such cases using Helix GPT and knowledge management. Now, in this case, assuming that for your particular line of business, whether it's human resources, finance, whatever you're using it for, you do have knowledge articles for queries that your end user are going to ask. And these queries could be in the BMC, so the Helix-based knowledge management, which is for business workflows. It will be the IS knowledgement or come around, or it can also be in SharePoint. So we also have the ability to plug in SharePoint as one of the knowledge sources for Helix GPT. I just want to demonstrate this use case. So what we are going to, the use case that I'm taking here is employee who's dropping an email for creating a case, and the employee wants to know what is our policy for taking time off for trainings. So for official trainings, if you want to take a time off, what would be the policy? So what they're going to do is they're going to drop an email, and the expectation they're going to have is that somebody's going to create a case, send back the case ID, and then somebody's going to manually work on the case. But then let's see how we can actually deflect this case by letting this person know exactly what they're looking for using the knowledge base that we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the query. So basically, when the email is sent to business workflows and Helix GPT is going to look at the context of this email, the topic, the summary, and the body of the email, and they're going to match it with the existing knowledge articles. And if there is an answer within the knowledge articles, which can be in one knowledge article or multiple knowledge article, Helix GPT is going to frame an answer and reply back to this person with the with whatever doubts they had. Right. So let me just send this email, and then we can look at. We'll come back to this. It takes some time for the response to be sent back to the employee. So we'll revisit this. Now, the way this use case is going to work is it is still going to create a case, and it is going to automatically resolve the case, right? And it's going to resolve the case using a resolution code saying resolved using Helix GPT. So that internally, if you want to track how many cases were deflected using Helix GPT, and knowledge, of course, KCS, then you can actually do a pull report on that. Now, once the email is received by the end user, and um, uh, we'll wait for the email to come. The email is going to contain, of course, the query that is being answered using Helix GPT. But below that, we give them an option asking them whether this was helpful or whether it was not helpful to you from an end user perspective, whether this email answered your query. Okay, so we got an email response back. Right, so this is the response we got back from Helix GPT. So the query was for time off for training. Now, what Helix GPT has done is actually went inside and uh, pulled up the exact policy from the knowledge articles, right? So probably the knowledge articles could be covering multiple scenarios or multiple use cases, and time off for training might be just one of them. And what it's done, it's just pulled from that particular topic and replied back. Now, whatever is the response could be helpful for the requester, and they can just click helpful. Clicking helpful can be completely be optional. Even if you don't click helpful, it does not stop the use case because we have already created a case and resolved it. But if the either the response was not helpful, or if you're looking for some more data, then you can always click on not helpful. And when you click not helpful, it will reopen the case that was created, and then the workflow will go ahead normally how you would create a case via email. So this is a example of how you can use Helix GPT for deflecting all the cases coming via email, especially where you have knowledge articles which can assist in the resolution of those use cases. Right. If you have any queries on these, please feel free to put those on chat. We have a team who can help you respond to those offline. The second use case that we have is around the agent persona. So this is about the similar kind of user experience, but instead of a end user looking for resolution, it's the agent who wants some help on working on cases. So let's switch to the business workflows case user interface. Now here, I have created a case called relocation policy. Now let's look at the scenario. It's basically Sarah Connor is a requester. She wants to relocate from Oslo to London, and she wants to understand what is the relocation policy for employees in the company. Now, for that, a case was created. Now, the case could be created via email or via a phone or DWP, right? Now, but this case has come to an agent, and let's assign this. I'm just going to assign this case. Now, want to look at how the agent can leverage Helix GPT to work on this particular case. So I'm going to go to Helix GPT part. When I click on Helix GPT, you will see the Helix GPT has already summarized the case and given me a short summary about what this is. So basically it says Sarah Connor, an employee in the human resources department, requested information about company's relocation policy. And then it also talks about why, and then gives the context about the case ID, etc. Now, this is a case that I had created for a demo. Now, if there is a case which is actually getting created, I'm sure these insights are going to be much more in detail, right? So now, from an agent perspective, I'm working on this case, and I want to understand exactly the query Sarah has. I have the same thing. I want to understand what is the relocation policy of a company. I'm going to ask the same question to Helix GPT. Right. So now, assuming there is knowledge defined for relocation policy in the system, it is going to pull that data from the knowledge articles or from the SharePoint articles, and it is going to give me those details over here, right? So now, depending on the kind of question that you are asking, it will also give you the answer accordingly. So I asked, what is a relocation policy? If I say, I want to see whether I can get much more details, right? But then Again, these are knowledge articles belonging to this particular line of business. So the access control is also enforced over here. You see, when I said summarize the relocation policy, it added few more details. So depending on what kind of answer, what length of answer you want, you can actually frame your questions. So based on your questions, it is going to answer accordingly. Uh, Now, coming to access to knowledge articles. So this is basically a HR agent asking for queries on HR knowledge articles. Would the same response be given to someone from a facilities to a facilities agent? The answer is that whatever access control you have set up on the knowledge articles, right, on the business workflows knowledge articles, those are honored. So if the same query is posted by a facilities agent, then only those knowledge articles which are accessible to the facilities agent will be shown. If the answer is there in the HR article, but if a facilities guy is asking for it, he will not get this answer because he is not part of the support groups which have access to those knowledge articles, right? So that is taken care internally on who gets access to knowledge. It's purely based on how you have defined your access. If any knowledge is accessible to public, like if you have set it to public, your end users can also access it, only then it will work in the previous use case, which we have shown for email, right? So if somebody is dropping an email and you're sending them a response, those knowledge articles are only those knowledge articles which are set to public or accessible to end users. So that's how the use case is going to behave. So this is about the agent persona. We will also be adding, as I mentioned, you can also add SharePoint articles over here. And if you have SharePoint articles, then the response can be pulled from the SharePoint articles, and you will get the link to these articles over here. Now, SharePoint articles, the response will be given, but SharePoint might not be accessible to end users. So that is the only difference between knowledge articles and SharePoint, depending on how you set the access on SharePoint, because SharePoint is outside our purview. So we are trying to integrate SharePoint, but whether you can click on the link, that will depend on who is actually getting the response, whether it's the agent who has access to the SharePoint link or the end user who might not have access to the SharePoint link. Right. The next use case we have is around global search. Again, I'm covering the Helix GPT use cases. So we are introducing Helix GPT on the global search. So you, of course, have the search part, the normal search part, but you will also have the global search part where you will have the chat GPT based conversational user experience on global search. Right. So here, right now, the data that we are feeding to Helix GPT is confined to knowledge articles and, of course, articles from SharePoint. In long runs, we will also be adding data like transaction data to Helix GPT. The global search part that you're looking right now, it is not yet GA. The first two features that I showed, they are available in O3. Global search will be available in O4. But let's try to look at how global search will behave. I can ask queries like, okay, now, of course, these kind of answers you can also get from the case console. And right now, since we are not adding transaction data, only based on whatever data is available to Helix GPT, I'm asking questions. When we have transaction data added to Helix GPT, you can ask more complex analytical questions to Helix GPT, like, how many tickets were raised, which has the keyword maternity leave, or how many in last 12 months, in which month were the highest number of cases raised. Queries for which normally you will go to Helix GPT, Helix dashboard. You can also ask those query on this particular interface. So the way this feature is going to enhance is we are starting with knowledge. We will be then further looking at how we can add transaction data, ticket data, like cases in case of business workflows. Then we are also looking at how we can add CI data. to HelixGPT, right? So you can make queries on your CIs right from this interface. So that's how it is going to really help you get all answers from a single pane of glass, which is this, instead of going to even dashboard for that matter, right? So these are some of the queries, some of the features that are available. We are also in business workflows. We are also working on another feature, which is more about supporting multiple translations for knowledge articles. So today, when you go to knowledge management, you will see that you can create knowledge article in a single language. But in case you have a use case where you say, I want to create my knowledge article in English, but then given the way my organization is, I want to support 5 translation. Like, I want 5 European languages to be supported. But then I don't want to maintain 5 or 6 different knowledge articles. I want the convenience of just creating one parent article and then creating translations of that article automatically, so that if I want to update, like create multiple versions, I'll just work on the parent. I don't want the hassle of maintaining the children, which are the translations. So over here, we are going to exactly bring that feature where you create a parent and say, I want to translate it into 5 different languages. So you create 5 translations. The translations are going to be supported using HelixGPT. And then if you want to manage the life cycle, you're just managing the life cycle of one knowledge article. So if you want to create version 2, you create version 2 of the parent, and you have the option of pushing those updates to the children. You don't have to worry about the life cycle of the children, but you have the convenience of reviewing those children if you want. Say sometimes the translations which are given by algorithms like HelixGPT, or for that matter, any other algorithm like Google Translate might have some differences based on what you expect and what is translated. There you can also impose a review of those articles, like, before the article is published, I want the review process to happen even for the children. So even that can be added as part of the translations that are getting created. And finally, we are also going to allow you to plug in your own translation, where instead of HelixGPT, if you want to say use Google Translate, so we're going to be giving a process in which the default hook is going to be for HelixGPT, but then you can replace that and add Google Translate for that matter for translations for supporting this use case. Right. Finally, want to cover a few more items which are on the roadmap. So we covered SharePoint. We have the summarization use case already available in HelixGPT. So you can actually go to HelixGPT and ask them to summarize the use case. But in long runs, we want to enhance this further, where you can also capture the activity log as part of the summary. The summarization use case will be extended in various areas. One of the scenarios will be, once you are resolving the case, you will be able to create a resolution summary using HelixGPT. And the resolution summary will include data which is captured while the case was created, which is summary and description, and also the logs, the activity log. And using all this, it's going to generate a resolution summary and present it to the agent. And the agent can, of course, override it or reject it or accept it as they want. But you'll have the option of creating resolution summary using HelixGPT. We also want to introduce just a summarize button, where if you want to look at historical cases and really try to understand in few lines what exactly happened here, why this was created, who created this, how it was resolved, what were the pain points, etc. You can actually create a summary out of that by clicking one button, and then HelixGPT will just summarize the whole case for you if you want to really understand what exactly happened over here. So that's how the summarization capability will be enhanced further. Right. Finally, we have the AI-based assignment of support group. This is more or less intelligent routing, especially when cases are getting created via email. This use case will be selection of the right templates. So there are multiple scenarios for intelligent routing. In other scenarios, it will be assignment to the right support groups, the right people. We do have intelligent routing use case supported today through Watson, But what we are looking at is moving it to more of a Helix GPT or an internal AI-based algorithm based implementation. Then there are finally similar to ITSM use cases like prediction of mean time to resolution for cases where where the agent will be. Of course, we have SLAs as a function supported today, but then if you're working on a case, you would like to know what normally is the time taken to work on cases of this particular type, and then you will have Helix GPT or some algorithm coming up with that value, showing it to the case agent that, okay, for such cases, the expected time to resolution is 5 hours. So this is what you are working against, right? Okay, so that is what we are planning to cover from business workflows for Helix GPT. We're happy to take any questions for business workflows and ITSM.
There's a question from Jocelyn. Can we unmute them? I'm going to unmute you, Jocelyn. You can ask your question.
I see a lot of queries getting answered already on chat. But again, if there are any queries somebody want to bring up for business workflows or ITSM or in general, the Helix GPT strategy for BMC, we're happy to take them.
Yeah, so there is one hand up at the moment with Jocelyn Bartolome. Just feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. I've made it available for people to ask.
Okay, I think there's a question from Pascal. I need an enterprise license of an LLM of my choice. The answer is yes. Yes, correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct, yes. Okay, no other questions in the chat at the moment. Oh, there's another one come in. Okay, so the question is, how do you configure GPT so that each user only accesses the information they have permission for? Is there role profiling? So the answer is for data within the BMC platform, for instance, knowledge, within the different tool sets, the role-based data still applies, right? So if I don't have access to specific information within BWF, or I don't have access to specific information within the ITSM platform, I still will not have that access. It won't generate the response. It won't even come up as part of the semantic search. So it is your data is still secured.
Yeah, and on the same topic, as I was explaining, the how knowledge is updated, added to Helix GPT. So all knowledge gets added to Helix GPT, but when it comes to consumption of the same, the whatever access control that you have applied on knowledge articles, they are enforced, right? So for example, if your knowledge article belongs to a particular knowledge set, and on that knowledge set you have defined access to certain support groups or certain people, then that access control is honored via Helix GPT. So someone who is not part of that support group will not be able to get a response from that particular knowledge article.
Thanks, Kapil, for the extra response. That's all our questions that we've got in the Q&A. I have also unmuted everyone. Apologies, I was having a few networking issues. If anybody does have any other questions, either come off mute or if you want to put it into the Q&A. I can see we've had quite a lot of questions during this session today.
So Sam, I just want to bring up this question from Jonas. So Jonas
Yes,
had a
please.
question around, can we also expect to use HelixGPT to read from different log files? And this is for helping out in admin troubleshooting tasks. So I just wanted to get more information on this. If Jonas, if you're willing to provide more information on this, in terms of what would be the troubleshooting tasks, how would log files help you? I guess we can really consider this as part of our roadmap.
Yeah, I was thinking about we do a lot of troubleshooting and read and compare a lot of log files, and maybe the HelixGPT could help us out there. Seems that you have that on your future backlog, but I can't really give you an examples in details right now, but maybe I can come back to you.
Yeah, Harshad,
Sure.
I can add something. So I think Yunus, probably understand where you're coming from. One of the things that we want to look at is whether we can try to do this real time, because a lot of times the data that gets synced up with Helix GPT might not necessarily be real time, because we're looking at articles like data like knowledge articles, right? Where real time sync is not really required, but in case of logs, it might be required. So that might be one of the aspects to consider. But I think it's a very important use case that if you have let's say, for example, even logs for Helix added to Helix GPT, and you can do some queries on any issues that you're facing on your own.
Yeah, and I would
Yeah.
say examples of this would be really helpful to us, right? So, be honest, if you could provide us some more examples of what troubleshooting tasks do you expect help with, that would be really useful to us.
Yeah,
Maybe you
sounds
can send
good.
us an email later on once you have that
Yeah,
info.
I will.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Jonas. Okay, we don't have any other questions. They were all answered. We will be sharing the recording today. In fact, we've got two. We do have another session this afternoon, so that's 3 p.m. BST. It is late evening for probably many of you that have joined today, but if you do have any colleagues that are interested in it, the registration details are exactly the same. It's just you can choose which options of which session you want to join, so feel free to share that out. I'll also share any of the Q&A that's come through from both sessions. So I'm going to wait until they've finished, and I will aim to get this out to you at the absolute latest tomorrow. If there is also any other sessions that you're interested in, please take a few minutes to fill in the survey that will come with the thank you email. And we're running these on a monthly basis, so you'll definitely be hearing from Kaplan and Harshad again. Des works with me on this on a monthly basis. So the next session that we've got in October will be focusing on digital workplace. Then we have a session that's going to be focusing on knowledge in November. And then in December, we're looking at innovation suite. So do keep an eye out for these. And if there's any products that you want to see the connection with Helix GPT, then I'd be interested in hearing from you.